Hey, welcome to Book Bites with Harmonic Wholeness. Today's book, you can see I'm really excited about all the things I get to share with you, is My Stroke of Insight. I chose this book because, number one, I finished it, and I find it to be extremely fascinating, as you can tell by everything that I want to share with you. If you are not familiar with the book, Jill Bolte Taylor, back in 1996, she was 37 years old, and she is a Harvard brain scientist. And she had a massive stroke in her left hemisphere. And this is the crazy part. Because she knew what was happening to her, it was like she detached herself and observed the experience. And as a brain injury survivor, I just found it very interesting, like what was happening. And I haven't had a stroke, but I've had a brain injury. And of course, your brain is impacted in a stroke, which is what we're going to learn about. So I have some areas that I want to read, some pockets of information I want to share with you. And the first is that by the end of the morning, so this happened before work, and it happened as she was getting ready in the shower. By the end of the morning, my consciousness shifted to a perception that I was one with the universe. Since that time, I have come to understand how it is that we are capable of having a mystical or a metaphysical experience relative to the brain anatomy. Well, that just takes it to another conversation, doesn't it? That's crazy. Independent streams of information simultaneously burst into our brain via each of our sensory systems. Moment by moment, our right mind creates a master collage of what this moment in time looks like, sounds like, tastes like, smells like, and feels like. Moments don't come and go in a rush, but rather are rich with sensations, thoughts, emotions, and often physiological responses. If you're familiar with the law of attraction and how they talk about the importance of this exact thing right here, is tapping into your desire with all of the senses. Now put that with what I just read and see what happens inside your awareness. In contrast, our left hemisphere is completely different in the way it processes information. It takes each of those rich and complex moments created by the right hemisphere and strings them together in timely succession. It then sequentially compares the details making up this moment with the details making up the last moment. By organizing details in a linear, methodical configuration, our left brain manifests the concept of time, whereby our moments are divided into the past, present, and future. For me, as a brain injury survivor, my main injury was right here, and I had trouble with sequencing, which this is so interesting for me to read that it's just interesting. One of the jobs of our left hemisphere language centers is to define our self by saying I am. Through the use of the brain chatter, your brain repeats over and over again the details of your life so you can remember them. It is the home of your ego center, which provides you with the internal awareness of what your name is, what your credentials are, and where you live. Without these cells performing their job, you would forget who you are and lose track of your identity. Isn't that interesting? We have to have cellular communication in order for us to even know that we are we, or that you are you. Crazy. So as she was in the shower, this is what was going on in her awareness. She's observing herself having a stroke. Wow, what a strange and amazing thing I am. What a bizarre living being I am. Life, I am life. I am a sea of water bound inside this membranous pouch. Here in this form, I am a conscious mind in this body, in this vehicle through which I am alive. I am trillions of cells sharing a common mind. I am here now, thriving as life. Wow, what an unfathomable concept. I am cellular life. No, I am molecular life with manual dexterity and a cognitive mind. That to me, she's a really good writer. I really, really enjoyed this book. She goes on to say, I must admit that the growing void in my traumatized brain was entirely seductive. I welcomed the reprieve that the silence brought from the constant chatter that related me to what I now perceived as the insignificant affairs of society. I eagerly turned my focus inward to the steadfast drumming of the trillions of brilliant cells that worked diligently and synchronously, to maintain my body's steady state of homeostasis. As the blood poured in over my brain, my consciousness slowed to a soothing and satisfying awareness that embraced the vast and wondrous world that I was within. I was both fascinated and humbled by how hard my little cells worked moment by moment just to maintain the integrity of my existence in physical form. For the first time, I felt truly at one with my body as a complex construction of living, thriving organisms. Can you get a feel for what's happening to her, and not only what a brilliant writer she is, and consider that she wrote this after she had a stroke? It's quite much. Unlike a computer that could be turned off and then rebooted, the richness of my life was completely dependent not only on the health of my cellular structure, but on the integrity of my brain's ability to electrically transmit and communicate its directives. And the cells, I'm big on cell, like I enjoy learning about this kind of thing, the importance of the communication within your cells. If it's not optimal, we don't have health. What I like, okay, then she goes on with her experience, and then she goes more into how she healed and how that looked and what it was like and how much her mother contributed to her healing. It took 8 years for her to get back to the level that now you're actually reading something that makes sense. And she has a whole chapter in here on what I needed most. And you can take this information, and if you have someone in your life, in your family that has had a stroke, this is a really important piece of information here. I'll just read a few. I won't go into the details, but she's bolded the things, what she needed. I desperately needed people to treat me as though I would recover. I needed the people around me to believe in the plasticity of my brain and its ability to grow, learn, and recover. I needed people to love me, not for the person I had been, but for the person who I might now become. She intentionally, as she healed, she intentionally crafted a life that looked nothing like who she had been. She had like touched the feet of God, if you will, and she saw how she was living, and she chose to like literally craft a different life. It was essential that we challenge my brain systems immediately. So that became the job, the working on that, the brains and the cognitive function and things like that. Her mother realized early to offer me only multiple choice questions and never a yes or no. And I could speak to that too, as it's too hard, like a yes and no. Like there are times when somebody says something to me and I look at them like a deer in headlights. I have no idea what they just said. Like my mind just can't, and I don't know what to say. So this is what she's talking about. So these are just a few of the things. I needed everyone to assume that I knew nothing so that I could relearn everything from the beginning. I needed my caregivers to teach me with patience. I needed people to come close and to not be afraid. A lot of times when we're with someone who has a condition or looks way different than us, we don't know how to behave. And just to what with my work with which is also working with the soul, it's like look in their eyeballs, just look right in their eyeballs and look into their soul and forget what they look like. Just forget what they look like and just work and touch and speak with who they are as a soul being. One of the greatest blessings I received as a result of this hemorrhage is that I had the chance to rejuvenate and strengthen my neural circuits of innocence and inner joy. And that is what I will leave you with, because that is what she chose to do. She chose to create a life of joy and to not be on that perpetual wheel in which she'd been living. And this book, again, My Stroke of Insight, I should look at it without all my little things. My Stroke of Insight, I highly recommend it, especially if you have someone in your world that has had a stroke or has had a brain injury, and that you're trying to understand like even how to work with them. Even that one chapter is worth however much the book cost. So that's it for today. My name is Marita with Harmonic Wholeness, and I do hope that you will stop by again for the next episode of Book Bites. Bye-bye.